Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Amplify Speakers Podcast. I'm your host, Chris Sund. And today I have with me Bryan Reynolds. Bryan brings more than 2 decades of leadership experience across operations, national accounts, and large scale team development, where he's led teams of up to 350 people and managed portfolios exceeding $200 million across 7 divisions nationwide. Today, he combines that real world leadership background with a powerful digital presence. He has generated over 100 million views, and he has a following of more than 250,000 people right now. So, Bryan is known for breaking down complex leadership and performance concepts into clear, practical strategies that can help leaders and teams drive meaningful, measurable results. Welcome to the podcast, Bryan.
Awesome. Appreciate having me.
Absolutely. Well, I think let's start diving into the professional background, the corporate side of Bryan, and giving a little history lesson there.
Yeah, I actually started with Coca-Cola when I was 17 years old. 41 now for anyone who's doing the reverse math. But just started out with a game plan, right? I was at that time going into university the next semester. So I was going into university and kind of built out this plan of how Brian at 40 was going to live his life, which is hilarious because now I'm 41, which happened like that. And just started knocking down all those barriers, right? What do I want to do at 21, 25, 26? 30, 35, all those different age brackets, how I'm going to, carve my path. Now, it never happens perfectly like you think it's going to. Um, but at the end of the day, by the time I reached 40, I hit every goal that I had set out to, from Brian at 18, 19 years old, which was pretty remarkable. But yeah, started out with Coca-Cola, still there now, 24 years later, and have done everything from filling shelves at grocery stores up here in Canada to now as a director role, managing teams and customer groups of in the hundreds of millions of dollars.
That's an incredible journey to say the least over 24 years. You said one thing you said was that you set out these goals that you wanted to hit by 40. Do you think the fact that you're intentional and wrote it down and made those goals is one of the reasons why you achieved them?
100%. It's I'm sure you know Tony Robbins, and you love watching Tony Robbins. He says, people underestimate or overestimate what they can do in 1 year and underestimate what they can do in 2 or 3 decades. I certainly didn't know who Tony Robbins was when I was 17, 18, 19 years old, but that's exactly the mindset I put out, and that's what I held myself accountable to. Is like, hey, I might not be able to do, director by 21 years old, but I can get there by 40. And I think that everyone, in university or even younger, who are thinking about their goals and thinking about their life, it starts with the vision. The vision for me, again, it was anchored on Brian at 40. How do I want my kids to live? Where do I want them to go to school? Do I want to offer them like a private education, or at least have the opportunity to, if that was something I was thinking about? What kind of cars I want to drive, what kind of house I wanted to live in, all those things at 17, 18, 19 years old, it was the vision. And the titles were more like stepping stones. They didn't matter as much to me as what some people probably do, but it was about getting to that vision, which is how I wanted to live my life. Meaning I didn't want to get up every single day and worry about, where the next meal is coming from, or where that college tuition is going to come from, or some of those problems that people face day to day. Set my path and just started going. And again, it never happens exactly how you lay it out. But when you have that roadmap, there might be slight detours, but you get back to that road. And I think that's absolutely what happened in my case. And then at age 40, I kind of had to reset some of those expectations of myself.
So now looking at you're 40, 41, but like you said, you got to the goals you have now. What does the goals look like for the next 10, 20 years?
Yeah, I mean, I'm aging rapidly over here. It happened quick, but as I started um, going close to 40, so I was kind of 39 at the time, and I started thinking like I've done everything I've set out to by that age. And again, it was a very big anchor age for me, so it was a really big milestone. Of being super honest, it was like uh, it was a heavy one. Like, oh my goodness, everything I set out to do, and now I'm here. What do I do next? And that's where I started thinking about, okay, what do I really like to do, right? I love speaking. I love motivating people. In my professional world, it's motivating teams and that sort of deal. But how do I kind of tie that all in together? And I started social media with zero followers, zero posts, zero everything. And the whole idea of inspired by it was, let's just start posting things that I like. And if people like it, that's awesome. And if people don't, that's fine too. It's not for everybody, right? It's really trying to find like-minded individuals who maybe were feeling the exact same way, or who are lacking the vision for themselves, and maybe my videos could help them. And it was really quite unreal as it started to pick up steam, because I literally had no idea like what I was doing on social media, had no idea how to build a funnel, all those different things. Uh, but it was anchored in, authenticity. I'm just going to be me. And if you like it, you like it. And if you don't, you don't. And the other thing was consistency. Consistency is a theme throughout my life. I just don't quit. I just don't stop. I'm going to keep going. And before you know it, like, one night in particular, I was sitting down um, watching TV, and Stephen A. Smith, the commentator from the U.S. there, liked one of my posts, and I was like, oh my goodness, that's super cool. And then it was Usain Bolt, the world's fastest man at that time, liked another post that same night, and it was like, what is happening? And then a few months down the road, The Rock started following me. Like Dwayne The Rock, he had like hundreds of millions of followers, and he followed this guy. Like, it was so cool. And as I started picking up momentum, then I started getting like messages from people. One in particular, a guy was sitting in a hospital doing chemotherapy, going through my videos, and sent me a note saying, "Hey, like, you helped me kill an hour here," and it meant a lot. And you're sitting there like, this is unbelievable that something you did could reach that many people, and all kinds of different levels of connection, right? From a guy in a hospital really probably having a really tough day, to the world's fastest man who's probably living his best life, just happened to stumble across me, right? So yeah, it was really cool.
That's incredible. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I got like goosebumps when you're talking about the
Yeah.
guy in the hospital and what he said. Who would have known when you started putting out these videos that you wanted to do that impact was gonna reach people, all over the world?
Literally all over the world. People were reaching out to me from like New Zealand and Japan, and for whatever reason, I have a big following in Germany. Who knew? Australia, and then majority of the folks are in the U.S., but all over the world, and it's really kind of neat.
That's amazing. Why, how did you land on Inspired by It? What's the
Yeah,
story behind
yeah. There is a good story actually behind this. So, you ever see those like videos on Instagram where it's like get rich quick kind of deal, right? Like, check this side hustle out. So one of them was, and I was kind of trying to figure out what I wanted to do with social media. I hadn't had a plan yet, and I was trying to figure out, like, what am I going to do? One of them was buy domain names and flip them. And I was like, that sounds easy. Let me go look at domain names. And I search it, and that morning, someone had dropped the domain name inspiredbyit.com. And I saw it, and I was like, holy shit, I love this domain. And it wasn't like, let me go flip this. I just bought it. It was like $99. And it was like, what am I going to do with this? And then that day, I went on Instagram and Facebook and TikTok and YouTube and scooped up all the handles inspired by it, right? Just so I could figure out what I wanted to do with this idea. And I still was not even a fully formed idea yet. And I was telling my wife, like, I got this like I just love this handle. I love this sort of idea that I have going on. And she was the one who was like, why don't you just post stuff that you like? And I was like, I love that. And I started posting stuff that I like. And then, like, it didn't matter if it got 100 views or 100,000 views. If I liked it, it was going on there. And that was kind of the mentality I had with it. And that's where the authenticity comes from, right? It's not, oh, this one will get me a lot of views or a lot of followers or a lot of, no, it's do I like it? I could go chasing views, and I think a lot of people get stuck doing that, but then you lose the audience that you're actually trying to gain. So it was very, very organic, and that's how it came about. And so I started going and finding things that I liked and I wanted to talk about, and it just started resonating with people, and it just picked up steam after about 3 or 4 months of 60 views, 80 views. Before you know it, it was 200 views and 300 views, and then when the first one hits a million, it's like, whoa, a million views, and it just kind of picks up steam from there, and but that's how it started. It all was like I found a domain name that I liked. I kind of worked myself backwards into like, I like this sort of concept I had. How do I fill this concept in?
That's awesome. If you know, getting a million views is just something that not that many people ever accomplish on anything they put out there. And even looking back, like you have people that are sitting there for an hour just consuming this content that you're creating and you talking to them. What are some of the ones that like took off? What were you talking about? What were the ones that maybe got the eye of The Rock or, Usain Bolt?
I think it's anything that I do that's inspirational, that is saying that, hey guys, I'm just a regular guy, and I'm putting this thing out that seems extraordinary, but when you're doing things that are authentic, and it's very much, here's how I went from point A to point C. Those are the ones that are going to get all the views and they're going to get all the attention. And then some of the bottom of the funnel, of course, you might only get 3 or 4 thousand views, but that brings you in more of the business side. But the way I looked at it is my top of funnel was going to be very inspirational, motivational, and in my own sort of way of you know, I'm just a regular guy and I can go do this. So can you, right? And those are the types of videos that, in particular, like Usain Bolt, that one, it was very much like a motivational rah 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 kind of video, but in a sense of like you guys can go do this too.
That's great. Now, people have you go and talk in front of their entire, company, in front of their event. What's your one of your favorite things that you get to talk about when asked?
Yeah, I mean, I have to do another talk on May 5th in front of a bunch of 18-year-old kids ish, 17 through 19 probably, and it's very much the path, right? The way I like to talk about it is, think bigger, think longer, right? And it goes very back to that Tony Robbins saying, right? But think bigger, think longer, right? If you think you can be, whatever it is in your world that you think is really cool and really awesome at 17, 18, 19, think way bigger. But also, think about it in 2 or 3 decades. Don't go think about it in, I'm going to do this by the time I'm 21. Like maybe there might be a person or two out there that can do that. And there's some element of luck and some element of push. But I think my favorite thing to talk about is when you go up there and you say, hey guys, like this is the roadmap, right? And by the way, when I finished my roadmap at 40, I was started thinking like, whoa, if I could have done, I did this by 40, what can I do by 50? And the answer was a lot bigger than my original dream. But I'm out here making it happen, right? And I think that when you tell that to an 18-year-old who probably have some parents that are think realistic. Oh, Chris, you got to think realistic with your life. You better be realistic. Why? Don't ever be realistic, right? You only get one life to live. Why would you ever want to box yourself into like an $80,000 a year job when you can, and the money's not everything, but when you can think bigger, right? It's that's the motivational speech I like to give, especially if I get the opportunity to get in front of folks that really kind of need to hear it because I think a lot of people get bogged down and think realistic, or their friends who, oh, you're posting on social media? What a joke. Yeah, well, now I got 250,000 followers. How big of a joke is that, right? Um, so I love that kind of stuff, right? And that motivates me to no end is like when people tell me it can't be done, like, Brian, who do you think you are? You're not an influencer. No, I don't think of myself as an influencer, that's for sure, but it's sort of working.
Yeah.
Um, so I like to challenge people and just say, think bigger, think longer. You can do anything, but you got to be thinking 2 and 3 decades, not 1 or 2 years.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of times people will shoot for something really big, which is great, and they think they can get to it maybe just a little too fast, and then it they start going, maybe this isn't realistic, and they jump out. Or you have people that just don't do it because of that fear of failure. They don't put themselves out
Well,
there. They're afraid what people are going to think. There's a million, obstacles that are almost always self-induced obstacles that they're just putting in front of themselves to keep them from going out there and chasing it. But like you
100%.
said, anybody can do it if they're willing to.
Yeah, I mean, the judgment I think is something that people really hold back on from anything, not just social media and putting your face in front of hopefully hundreds of thousands of people, sometimes hundreds, but a video flops. And for sure, there's people in my social circle that know me for 20 years that see a video only do like 2,000 views and go, this one failed, right? And who cares, right? Like, I understand that those people, that's how they think, and that it is what it is. Um, but that fear of failure, you just got to push through it. And I think a lot of people don't. And I think a lot of people give themselves too short of a timeline. I get messages from people that are like, "How did you build this following that's now, 250,000 people?" I did it every single day for like 3 years. And they're like, "Well, I've done 90 posts and I only have 47 followers." You've only done 90 posts, right? And so it takes like anything. We just talked about this earlier. Like it takes reps. It takes anything in life. It just takes more time than you're going to think. But you certainly can't quit after 90 posts and think you're going to have a million followers. Or if you relate that back to anything, whether it's public speaking or whether you can't just quit after 90 days because you're not a millionaire, it takes more. And I think, what a lot of people don't understand is, unfortunately, it takes time. It takes more effort than most 95% of people are willing to put in. Um, and, when you're in front of a room and there's 400 or 500 people in there, the reality is maybe 40 are going to actually chase what they want to chase in life. And the other 350 are going to get caught doing something and they're going to wake up at 40 and go, oh my God. And by the way, if they wake up at 40, they're lucky. If you wake up at 40, hopefully you don't wake up at 60 and realize I gave it all away. Hopefully you do wake up, but like when you're in front of those groups of folks that probably need a little pep talk, it takes more.
It does. And we all need to hear that because it's too easy to get caught into that day to day routine and just go through the motions. And then you look back a year later and go, I never started what I said I wanted to start. Or I keep saying I'm going to do that, but now 10 years has passed and I still haven't done it. I think the stat of like people that say they're going to publish a book first do, it's like less than 1%.
Oh yeah.
The amount of people that go to college that don't finish, it's staggering. Unfortunately, like if you start looking at the data, I'm going to spit off because I'll probably say the wrong number, but I just heard some stats this week and it's like, that's crazy. If you told somebody they had to do 1,000 intentional posts to possibly recreate what you did, the reality is the most people would never do that for 3 years. They would fall off after 100 or 200 or maybe 10 or
Yeah.
20. And that consistency is just so hard. Is there anything for you that was like gonna stick with it? Is it just ingrained in your DNA, or is there some like do you have to tell yourself
Yeah.
sometimes to be like slap yourself together? I didn't motivate myself today.
Yeah. I mean, absolutely. There's days. I mean, we just happened last week where it's like, Ryan, what are we doing here? Is this like, how many times can I post um, without taking too much attention away from the other things in my life, being kids, wife, job, all those different things, without like the lack of a better term, payment coming off on the other, or payoff, I guess, on the other side. And you got to have those talks with yourself and say, hey, like today's a really shitty day. That's all right. Tomorrow's gonna be a lot better. It's funny that there was a Olympic rower that I had. I can't remember her name, unfortunately, but she's a Canadian Olympic rower, and they won gold years ago. And she was giving a speech to us, and this was like 15 years ago, probably. And for what those ones that just stick with you, right? And she said, one day she wins the Olympic gold, and it was one of those days where everything came easy. Everything just, and we all have those days where like life is easy. Your job's easy, the kids are happy, the wife is doing, we're having a great day. Those days are really easy. And she wins the gold medal, and a reporter says, is this what you trained for? And she's like, heck no. I trained because there's bad days that you got to push through. And so all those days that are really shitty and everything's building up and the pressure's there, that's why you trained for 2 decades to get to that one moment. And once you get past that, and then you're like, okay, that was a really not a great day. And then the next day or the day after is like one of those days where you're like, hell yeah, I killed it today. I think that's where, people really have to push through. It's like we all have shitty days. And a lot of people quit because of that.
Yeah. And it's so true. It doesn't matter what caliber person I've ever talked to. Somebody that's been at some of the peaks of reaching some of the top things that just people dream of wanting to get to their life. And they have stories of how many times they wanted to quit or didn't think they could do it, or are capable of doing it. I got a chance to listen to one of the best women volleyball coaches, I think, in the country, one of the most awarded national champion, John Cook, absolutely phenomenal coach. And he was telling that, from not that many years back, they had one sports psychologist to now I think he said five. And so he's talking about a team at the time that he was coaching, there's hands down one of the best in the entire country. Some of the best athletes, very good chance they'll probably play. Some of them will be probably in the Olympics, all Americans. And here they are going, I don't know if I can do this, or I like, and these are some of the most elite people in the country. It's just incredible that, we're all people, we're all humans.
Yeah.
But it's getting that inspiration, that motivation, or having that person that is there to pick you up, because not everyone has that inside themselves.
No, I mean, yeah, it's circle around you, right? And eventually, I mean, I'm sure you heard the phrase, show me your friends, I'll show you your future. And unfortunately, a lot of people get tied up with the wrong people who are probably pretty negative and oh, the world owes them something and the world owes you nothing, right? You got to go get it yourself. And I think what people don't realize is once you set out on that path and you're out there trying to realize whether it's your dream or your goals or whatever it is you're on that path to go do, the world pretty much gets out of your way, right? But you got to have that motivation and the right people around you sometimes makes a big difference. Not sometimes, it always makes a big difference. and it's that negative person in your life, whoever it is trying to mute them as much as possible, so you can go complete what you're doing.
Yeah, that is great advice. And unfortunately, there are there's people out there that do want to mute people, or people have that fear of worrying what people say, and they mute themselves more often than not. They're afraid of what they're going to put out there or
Right.
do it. And it's too bad, because it's that when people are willing to be genuine and real and like go chase what they care about, like you said, the world recognizes that. You
Yeah.
can tell when somebody's like, they really care about something, they're passionate, they got that fire, and who cares what anyone else thinks. I love when you see that's in somebody, and like, that's it. Run with it. Please
Yeah.
run with
And you can recognize it pretty quickly, right? Uh, when people come up to you and they're like, "Hey, here's what I'm trying to," I was speaking to a group of kids in Calgary about 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, and this kid came up because he saw, my Instagram and he saw all these things. He said, "Check out what I'm trying to do. I'm not quite there, but you have a look at this." And I looked at his YouTube. This kid's like 16. His YouTube had 193,000 subscribers. I was like, "What do you mean you're there, dude? You're there. You
it.
just got to keep
Wow.
going, right? You're 16 or 17, whatever he was, and you've got, almost 200,000 followers, and you're monetizing this, right? What are we doing? Dude, give yourself a break. You're killing it. You're crushing it. And no matter, I bet you that kid, no matter what he does in life, whether it's YouTube or whether he goes in and wants to be a doctor or whatever, fireman, whatever he's going to do, he's going to bring that sort of passion to it, and he's just going to be successful. And I think that, a lot of people probably miss that, and they need to go figure that out.
Yeah, that's incredible.
Yeah.
It's fascinating what people are able to do, especially at all levels, all ages, when they're take the leap and they just do
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that kid basically showed me up and he was like 17. He was like, "Look at this, Brian." Right?
That is incredible. Well,
Yeah.
I tell you what, I got two teenagers, I got a 21-year old, and yeah, there's not an even chance that they're trying to put out there anything they even get one, and that's fine.
That's
Yeah,
fine.
I've asked, one of them does sell sports cards, and I'm like, people just love watching what cards you get. You ever thought about just doing that? And they're like, no, I'm good.
You know,
And that's all right.
this one day last summer, I had two kids. I mean, like one was 17, one was 14, reach out to me on the same day. One was from like Wisconsin and does like graphic design. He's 17. And the other one's 14 and wanted to do like a garbage cleaning business. Like he lived in California, collect bins and clean garbage cans. And he was 14. And they both asked me like some advice. And one kid who was 17 was like, "I'll pay for it." And I was like, "How old are you, dude? Like, we're not taking money from a 17-year-old. Go try this, right?" And now he's doing like I think he's got like 2,500 followers and he's crushing it. And the other kid, like 14, going to start his own business. That kid's gonna be a rock star for sure. But you get to
Absolutely.
talk to lots of cool people, when you put yourself out there.
Yes. And I think that's one of the things I really admire about you. What you've done is incredible. Not a lot of people can build a personal brand like you have, and you balance a very big corporate career and responsibility with also doing this, building a big brand on the side. So you're
Yeah,
juggling a lot of things in the air. But the one thing is you're genuine. You want to do an impact. You talk about what you care about and what is meaningful to you, and you put it out there with a purpose, not just to do it. You're not just and that I really admire, and I think that's a huge part of your success, and why people love getting to hear what you have to say.
yeah. Don't let it keep going. Then you gotta love it. You
Yeah,
gotta love it
absolutely.
just too much.
It's a lot of work. If you don't love it,
Yeah,
you gotta have that passion.
exactly.
Well, Brian, I unfortunately we're I could probably talk to you all day, but we need to tie a bow. So what I do want to tell the listeners, if you go into the descriptions, I'm going to have info on Bryan. I'm definitely going to have his social channels on there so you can go there, follow him, and understand what he's all about. And we'll also have for all of you his speaker profile page as well. So if you are putting anything out there together, you're looking for somebody great to be at your event, please make sure that you look it up and reach out. So, Bryan, thank you
Appreciate it,
so
Chris.
much.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Absolutely. Now, I can't wait. This has been great. And hopefully, down the road, we're going to have to get you back on here again.
Awesome. Look forward to it.
All right. Thanks, Bryan.
See ya.